Hi, this is Mike, and this is the Colorado XT one-person fishing pontoon. Before we get started, a couple of disclaimers. One, you're going to hear a lot of angry hornets in the background. That's the F1 races, and a lot of helicopters in the air. That's the well-to-do people getting to go to the F1 races. I unfortunately have to work later today. I guess I'm fortunate in the sense that I have a job. But anyways, this is my pontoon. Actually, it's my wife's. We have two of them, so that we can fish where we want, when we want, and we can still be together. The Colorado XT pontoon fishing boat is pretty cool in the sense that it's very versatile. You can take it on lakes, or you can take it on rivers. You can row it, or you can add a trolling motor to it. I've even seen videos where they have gas engines on it. One of the things that's not so great about it is generally the motor is mounted on the back, and we'll talk about this mounting system in just a second. What I've found on YouTube is that you can mount it on the front, and that does a couple of things. One is it balances you out better, because now you have your battery in the back, your motor in the front, better balance. And you can also use the extra space for a cooler or a live well for your bait or something to catch your fish in. It just gives you options. Right now the boat is set up mostly and strictly for lake fishing with the motor, and we'll talk about it in a second. I don't even have it set up so you can put the oars on it, but it's about 5 minutes to change it over, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so this is the front motor mount, and you can see the motor as well. What I did was I put the receptacle for the plug to the battery, because you're going to need some extra wire to run this all the way to the back. That's one of the things you'll have to do. I put the receptacle on the engine side, or the motor side. That way I built this little block. You just have to drill a hole through and put it in there. That way I can take this off and I can take the engine with me, and I don't have to disconnect the wire that's running down the side of the boat. I can just leave that on at all times, and that saves a great deal of time whenever you're putting the boat in or taking it out. It's real simple. Just take the plug, which is from the battery, and you plug it in, twist it, it's in. When you're through for the day, twist it, take it out. I don't know if you can see this, plug it in the handy dandy receptacle there, pull this off, the motor goes with you. Now in all the videos I've seen, they use the front motor mount to go forward. What I found with that is if I'm wanting to go in this direction, it's pulling water in this direction, and it's hitting that pontoon. Since this thing pretty much just sits on top of the water, very low draft, it tends to move the boat in weird directions, so you're not really ever going the direction you want, and you can't really get the speed you want. What I've done is I made this the back of my boat now, and when I go from position to position, I just go in that direction. What that does is it pulls water through, and there's no obstructions out here to interfere with my direction. It feels like I go a little bit faster, and I definitely have more control. Okay, for the front motor mount, again, Nate designed this. Give him 100% of the credit for doing this. I did mine slightly different. For one, can you even see it? Not really. Well, on these he uses a 90, and I used that on my first design, but I found that I wanted another place to store things, so I used a three-way on this top connector here. That way I can store stuff. On the other side I have a fishing knife. You may have seen it in the other clip. And I didn't have the steel material. I'm not sure what I used for the front and the back to brace this to the mount. What I used was, it's simply a 1x6 and on either side, and that's screwed with a 2x4 in the middle, centered directly between them. That gives you a little overlap for these to sit down on top of the 1 1/4 inch. Now that 1 1/4 inch of course is bigger than the 2x4, and it's not going to sit all the way down on it, but it does sit just enough in there to keep it secure. For the actual an issue I had was that this 1x6 doesn't come up high enough for this to catch. So what I did was I took the mounting bracket off of the back, removed this plate, and just screwed it in all the way through those boards, and now it has a nice solid mount. Again, I've been using it for about 3 months. I use it quite a bit, and I've not had any issues with this thing coming off. Once you get it on nice and tight, it's not going anywhere. And I've gotten caught up in some weeds, and I've hit a couple of rocks and just misjudged some things. The motor will move around, the boat moves around, makes a lot of noise and scares you, but it doesn't come off. Okay, the only issue that you're going to have with doing it this way is kind of the same issue that you have with the motor being mounted in the back. Sort of, I guess. Don't know why I said that. It's kind of the opposite. Anyways, on with it. What you have to do is you have to get a rotating seat. So you have to get a base that swivels. And as you can see, I can swivel around the boat. I can access the battery, the cooler. I can spin back around and access the motor. I got a 5-inch base from the bottom to the chair, and it's a swivel, of course. One of the things you're going to want to be aware of is I found that when I took this out on the first day, I loved it for a little while, and then realized I was sitting really upright, a little bit too far forward. Let me see if I can zoom in on this, and I'll show you what I did to fix that. Look right here, you can see some washers, and all I did is on the front of the seat where it connects to the base is I put 8 washers on each side. That seemed to work for me. And now I sit in a more natural position, kind of lean back a little bit. It's very comfortable. I've spent 12-15 hours on this thing, and I never feel the need to get off except to, you know, take care of nature. So if you're going to do the seat, if you're going to do the front mount, I would highly suggest that you get a swivel seat. As you can see, I have an upgraded seat. Adds comfort, it's great. And we'll talk more about the seat in just a second, and another reason I went with this seat instead of just a normal seat. Okay, one thing that this seat allowed me to do was mount these fishing rod holders on the back of it. On the seat that comes with it, it's curved, and I'm sure there's a way to mount something, but I wanted a new seat anyway, and this provides a flat back, so keep that in mind if you do buy a new seat. If you are going to do this, make sure that you put a piece of rubber underneath whatever you use to mount it. I use 3 plastic, 1 1/4 inch whatchamacallums. Make sure that you screw the rubber in with that on the top and the bottom, otherwise that rubber will slip. What you can do is you can grab both sides of this and you can tilt it back and you can tilt it forward. However, it won't tilt unless you're actually moving it. It's pretty stable. I've not had any issues with it. If you get some heavier stuff on top, then you might need to do something else, maybe even consider doing a cross brace across here and mounting that the same way to keep it in position. But the way I've got it set up for what I've used it for, I've been using it for about 3 months now, quite a bit, and I've not had any issues with it. These rod holders are great. I don't really drift with them, but what I do is, you see I got 2 rod holders in the front as well. I'll put 1 rod out and then I can put 1 back here and I can fish any direction. Anytime I spin the seat, you see the rods spin with me, so they're never in the way of my casting. So that works well for me. Okay, and these are my fishing rod holders, and it does one more thing. I have one of these mounted on each side, and it's mounted to the frame that you mount your oars to. Now, Nate had asked if this interferes with the rowing. With these bolts sticking up, it'll definitely interfere with your rowing. Again, I haven't done this to hold the rows yet, just haven't messed with it. But on this frame, there's 3 holes, so you don't have to do any drilling on the boat. Everything on this just hooks to the boat. There's no drilling. So what I did was just went up through the bottom 2 holes. This is a 1 1/4 inch PVC pipe, the same that's made on the front motor mount. And this T, it's a piece of 1 1/4 inch PVC pipe. You got a 3-way, a 90-degree, and a 45. Now everything is screwed down from the T to the 90 up to the connector for the 45, but the 45 itself is not screwed down, and the reason being is because I can turn this and I can fish from any direction. Occasionally I will throw a bobber out there and I'll throw this off to the side, and then I can fish with my other pole in another direction. One more cool thing about this is there's a inflator that you have to use to inflate these, a certain piece of a connector that goes from your pump to the actual connector on the tubes. I forget what it's called, but that fits perfectly right in there. I've got it on the other side right now, but I put it in there and I keep it in there. That way I don't have to worry about showing up to the lake and not having the inflator. Now I can't inflate the boat. Gonna be a bad day. Okay, and one more thing and I'll stop talking. This is the back of the boat. You can see the battery fits well there. Got a nice little cooler. That design, I love it. It seems to work well. Got some tie downs for it. For this one, I just use a strap. Got my navigation light on it. Again, this boat's forward. If you are going to put a motor on these boats, you're probably going to have to get it registered. I know in Texas that you have to get it registered. So I do find myself going into the night sometimes. They sell cool little kits at Academy, Cabela's, wherever. It's you can take this and you can mount it onto something. I just screwed it into the top of the battery box, and now it always goes with it. I don't forget it. And I can put another one up on that fishing rod holder. What you do is you just use a 1-inch pipe and then put some tape around it, paint it so it looks nice, and that'll hold your light perfectly. It's pretty cool. And now I have my white light to signal where I'm at, and the red green so they can tell which side is my right and my left. Like, that matters on this boat, but you have to do it. So that's all I have for that. Okay, again, my name is Mike, and hopefully if you're looking for one of these and wanted some more information, or if you have one and wanted to do something different with it, this video helped you out. Again, look at Nate D's website. He does a great job of explaining that front motor mount. I watched his website and it saved me a lot of brain power on measurements and figuring out how I was going to do this. So hopefully I helped you out, and I wish you well and good luck fishing.